Thank you for joining us and welcome to an extremely special episode of Higgs in Conversation With. For this episode, I am joined by a special guest who needs no introduction, a true legend of the Premier League era and a key part of the Man United team that became immortalised in footballing history by winning the treble, making them the first English team to accomplish it. Ex-Premier League and international footballer, now international manager with Trinidad and Tobago, Dwight Yorke. Dwight, welcome.
Thank you, James.
I'm going to get into some questions, Dwight, very, very shortly, but thank you so much for joining us. And as you know, this podcast is designed to explore what success and leadership is. And I think that's fair to say that's something that you have experienced and continue to experience in your career. So for those that haven't joined this podcast before, my name is James Modley and I will be your host. And I am a partner in the commercial dispute resolution team at Higgs LLP. So Dwight, correct me if I'm wrong on any of these, but I think it's fair to say throughout your career, you've experienced success at the elite level of sport, and I'm about to reel off some facts. So, talking about success, 3 Premier League titles, 1 English FA Cup, 1 Champions League, 1 League Cup, 1 A-League title, 1 Intercontinental Cup, 1 Caribbean Cup winner, and 1 Championship winner. Have I missed anything so far?
I'll let you off a bit, but yeah, you're probably missing the championship as well. But not a bad CV after all. I'm very happy with that.
Well, I haven't finished yet, mate. Top Premier League scorer, 98-99 in your debut season for Man U. Top Champions League scorer in the same year. And then, I think I'm right in saying this, 23 Premier League goals for a non-European player, broken only by Sergio Aguero in 2017.
Yep. Yeah.
And then another one as a Villa fan. Aston Villa's record fastest goal scorer of 13 seconds.
Mm.
And then continuing with Villa, third highest goal scorer with 60 goals, only beaten by Gabby Agbonlahor and Ollie Watkins. Some amazing stats there, Dwight. What a career.
Yeah, it's been a journey. Obviously, people who probably doesn't know or follow football, the journey from the Caribbean all the way to England to the very top of the tree, it's been an amazing experience. And if one told me when I started off to be the dream of being a professional footballer, then if one said I was gonna achieve those accolades that you had mentioned, then yeah, I would say no, I would be in dreamland. But it's been a wonderful experience and one that I'm very obviously proud of. I'm sure my family is exactly the same. And yeah, I can only, sit here now and, listen to you saying those remarkable stats. I'm very happy.
Well, we'll come back to some of those, and obviously those have happened historically. But I know that you've got your sights firmly on the future, particularly as manager of Trinidad and Tobago. So just tell us, as manager now, international manager, what does your day typically look like? And I know that on the horizon you've got the World Cup qualification, but just talk to us about what's your day, what do you do on a daily basis?
So international football, and certainly when it comes to club football, they're two different things. Even though the concepts are pretty much the same, club football is where on a daily basis you are constantly involved with the players, constantly talking to them, interacting with them, improving them, building them up on a daily basis. Get to work with them every day. And then you get to the international level where you only have the players only for a certain period of times. And that's in a very short window. that you then have to then work with those players, put them together, dress them down, and have your philosophy, your ideas over in a very short time. So that's the challenge of being an international manager, because you, as I said, the window is so small, but it's still fantastic because you are constantly thinking about players, thinking about who's going to be available, who is not playing as consistent that they are. So you're constantly in and out and chopping and changes players, injury by injury, by lack of form. So you really have I won't say a wider scale of players to deal with, but the sort of time span that you're dealing with these players are very, very short coming. So you have to um, kind of put the pieces, the puzzle, in a very, very quick time, in a very short period of time as well.
Did that take some adapting time? Because obviously managing in the A League on a day-to-day basis and then international, was that a difficult transition to make?
Yeah, it is, because you would like to work on a daily basis with the players. Certainly, being an ex-player, you get to listen to the manager every day. You get to see your players. You get to understand people's strengths and weaknesses every day. Um, and international football, you just don't have those time span. So yeah, it is a little bit more challenging, I have to say. But we are football guys. We know exactly we can require certain things and certain skills are required. And having a specific team around me as well makes my life not easy, but makes it a lot more competent in terms of what we think and how we go about it, because everybody have a specific role to then play.
And you mentioned a key thing there, Dwight, team. So I know the people that you've got around you, but just talk to us about why it was so important to get the people that you trusted around you. How does that help you on a day-to-day basis?
Well, first you recruit people that not just they're football people, but obviously very skilled in their in particular ways, because it's a combination of the way we train, from the physical aspect of it, from the technical aspect of it as well, and people that relate to your ideas and buy into the your philosophy, as we say in football, that then transpire that onto the football pitch, that can actually articulate exactly what you want, right? Because it's all good if we speak football but not really been able to implement it on the football pitch. And so having those people who understand your ideas and on the same page, because that's for me the key, but also have the trust as well and the leadership quality to make sure that when we come together that we then put those pieces together very quickly, and most importantly get the results that we need. And so yeah, having the team behind you is obviously very, very important.
And I want to pick up on some of the things that you've said, but not just yet. So we will come back to that. But I think it's a really important point that as leaders, you can do as much as you want to do, but it's the people in the background that make a real difference as well, combined with you. And it's the 360 view. But we'll come back to that. So you've played for some of the best managers in the world. You've played in the best leagues in the world. What do you class as optimal performance? So what does that mean to you? How are you the best? How would you tell the others to be the best that they can be for people listening?
Well, first to begin, when you play for the likes of Villa and us and Man United, you are in an elite group of players. The sport in England is the number one sport, so you have to have a certain level of not just performance, but acceptance in the level that you are, in terms of when you're playing football at the highest level, you have to be the best. And I recognize it in two parts. So I was very young when I came to Aston Villa and getting to understand what professionalism is about, and the quality and the consistent that you need, which is to improve and get better at the level when you play, to perform in an era and a stadium that people expect you to then perform at a high level, right? So I get the professionalism at the end, because, as again, when I come from the Caribbean, I didn't have a clue what professionalism was about. The transition was so difficult because you train on a daily basis and the level of consistency is so high. But ultimately, I learned that and I had to pick it up very quickly. And so by doing that, you have to apply yourself in the right way, in terms of preparations and your sleep, your rest, your timekeeping, all those elements that maybe people maybe take for granted as a footballer or as a sportsman. It's just like you going to work, James. It's no different to us. We have to be on time. Your diet is right. Your fitness is correct. Competing against other guys who are, even though they're your teammates, but you're competing to play, right? And so you have to be at your best at every time. And so at Villa, over the 10 years period, or nearly 10 years that I spent at Villa, I developed that because I was still young, is what I consider my football education. I was still in that learning process. And then the transition from there to Man United, where I was accomplished Premier League player, playing on a regular basis, and then going to a whole new level, which again, that was incredible. The standard of player was better. Not that the players that I was at Villa was not good; they were very elite players, including Gareth Southgate and McGrath, and these guys were absolutely fantastic players. But then you go to Man United, and the level just go up a whole nother level. And of course, I went there with a record at the time. So the expectation, I don't call it pressure because I use pressure in a different form. The expectation was so much higher. The demands was higher, when you join Man United. Bigger fan base, just bigger expectation all around, with with better players. It was
Yeah.
as that. And if you didn't raise your game to that level, then you were going to be left behind. And so having to adapt to all these things was just incredible.
And I think for me, it's the consistency. So doing it on a consistent basis all the way through. And you must have had self-belief that you could make it to the very, very top regardless, because your stats backed up your performances, obviously. So the psychological elements of that must have been quite tough in some aspects. Or did you find that quite easy? Is that in your nature?
I was at ease with myself being on a football pitch. I was in a very, I won't say comfortable environment, but I was in a place that I know that this is where I belong. I never felt for one moment that what's the word, feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Football pitch was my get out clause, so to speak. It was my relief. And so you put me in that environment, then no matter who I was up against or who I was playing alongside, I felt very comfortable. And they felt exactly the same with me because I can play the game. And it's something that I developed from a very young age. And I play with men, even though I was still at high school, I was already representing Trinidad and Tobago at senior level at 15 and 16 years of age. So that was not the norm for any other kid growing up. And so I was in a place where once you got me on a football pitch, I felt very, very comfortable. I felt very accomplished, and age didn't factor into it. And so for me, that was where I wanted to be, and I love every moment of it. I enjoy the challenge, and if I wasn't good at something, make sure I was going to prepare to work and make sure I was going to be better at it, and that's exactly what I did.
I never asked you this question, Dwight, but out of interest, was there a point in time where you thought, I can be a professional footballer? So you've mentioned there being a child, in effect, playing like men's football, but was there a point in time where you thought, I can absolutely do this and I'm destined to do it?
I dream of it as a kid growing up in the Caribbean, and for the people who then maybe 40 years ago coming out of the Caribbean was very unlikely. In
Yeah.
fact, let me put it bluntly, no one did it. No
Yep.
one had. And so the opportunity of coming to England being a professional, that wasn't really on the radar for anyone because there was no history behind it that anyone had succeeded in those eras. And I can say that, back in the days, the West Indies cricket team was the highlight of Caribbean sport, right? And so even though domestically, football was the biggest sport, you wouldn't have known that unless you visit the Caribbean 40
Yeah.
years ago, James. But um, the reality that anyone was making it to the Premier League or playing big league football back then, which it was then in the first division back in England, was very unlikely. Our way out of the Caribbean back then was maybe a scholarship going to America. Was always an area that people tend to venture out. But in terms of making that transition from the Caribbean to England, that was never gonna happen. And so, being the first to break down those barriers, yeah, I mean, it's quite incredible when you look back. And whereas before, when I was coming through, there was no one to look to as an inspiration or who have done it. I think now, the kids today can then look at someone who come from the Caribbean that made it all the way through to the Premier League, but not just doing that, but also winning everything there is to win in the game.
Absolutely. The journey is fairy tale stuff, isn't it, if you look back on it? And again, I've never asked you this question. So, just very, very quickly, because I do want to cover some ground with you and I could speak to you all day. Um, just tell us the jump from Caribbean to England. How did that happen? So, how did your first opportunity happen?
Okay, so in 89, I was 16. Trinidad and Tobago was on the crest of qualifying for the World Cup as the smallest island, or the smallest country, sorry, to ever qualify for the World Cup in 1990. I was still at high school. Villa came on a tour to the Caribbean, and we had one more game to qualify for the World Cup. So we needed a international game, so to speak. So Villa kindly visit our country, Trinidad and Tobago, and we needed two games as a built up towards the final game in the World Cup qualifiers. And so Graham Taylor, the late Graham Taylor, I must say, because he's passed, obviously, he brought Aston Villa to the Caribbean, and I played against them in both games. And he heard about this young kid who's playing representing Trinidad. Let's have a look at him, and so on and so on. I played the first game in Trinidad. We are twin islands, Trinidad and Tobago. That's why we say Trinidad and Tobago. So I was not original. I'm original from Tobago, although Trinidad and Tobago is the might sound a little bit complicated, but bear with me. So we play one game in Trinidad, one game in Tobago. And then the final game in Tobago, Graham Taylor asked me to play with Aston Villa in the second half of the game. And that was quickly shut down because the people of Tobago says, no way, you're not going to take our best player. And then I had Mr. Neil Wilson, who was acting as my manager, and he only had a little office. No one had managers in Trinidad, but he was a businessman, so to speak. So he felt he could negotiate it on my behalf. And then they said, no way you're going to play the game or half of it. Invite him up to England on a trials. And I came to England with another colleague of Calvin Hutchinson to England. And I came on a 6 weeks trials. That's how
And
the
then,
original is. Not like today where you get all the database. and you can track players. I had to physically go to England on a trials, and then that's how it all unfolded. And
And
from
the
that
rest
moment,
is history.
yeah, and then I never looked back.
Thank you. 3 non-negotiables for success. What are your 3?
I think work ethic. I think you have to have a commitment into whatever you do. If you're not committed and passionate about what you do, I think that's a no-brainer. You got to make some sacrifices. I think those are the things that separate me from others, particularly in this part of the world. The commitment, sacrifice, passion, dedications. Um, those are the things that, for me, really helps me, and even to this day, are the same with management. If you're not committed and you don't make those sacrifices, I feel you are up against it. And
Where have those non-negotiables come from, Dwight? So
I really don't know where it come from, but I figure it out very quickly. And if you want to be different, then you got to do things differently.
yeah,
You can't expect the guys who just do a bit of training, play a little bit of football, expect to make it. You got to go beyond and really push the boundaries. And I think that's what is my biggest attributes. Where I developed it from, no idea. I had a good mentor coming up in the Caribbean that was real hardcore, a disciplinary. And I think that really helps me because there was a lot of distraction here in the Caribbean back then and still is today. And I chose the other. I could have chosen the way to go on. What do you think? Hang out on the streets, get sidetracked. But no, I didn't drink till I was 21. No, that laser focus
yeah,
of training, never missed training, didn't make any excuses, go the extra mile, went running by myself because I dream of becoming a professional football. What was gonna happen, but I lived that way.
yeah.
And so to knowing that never happened in the Caribbean, where someone leave the Caribbean and go to England and then make it into it was never going to happen. And so I just had that belief. But I know having the belief is one thing, but then going that extra mile was the other thing.
Yeah.
And even though the opportunity would have been very, very slim, I lived that way. And as I said, it was um, due to the mentor that I think I had, and a guy called Bertil Sinclair, that led me down that path. That's for some reason, and I believe in what he was telling me. And that's the next thing. I believe, even though it never happened in the history of Caribbean football, I
Good.
let believe that dream was going to happen to me.
And I know that we have and we will talk a lot about football, but there's a lot of synergy and a lot of crossover in business, right? So everything that you've just said can apply in the business world along with the football world. And that's why I'm keen speaking to people. So I've spoken to a lot of people in the business world, and now I'm speaking to you. But actually, what I'm hearing is a lot of the same. You need that dedication, you need that laser focus, you need that inbuilt ambition, passion to a degree that you want to achieve something and you firmly believe that you can and nothing will stop you. Whether that happens or not is another thing, but the self belief, that's critical.
Yeah, and I think I know a lot of people out there who just says, "Oh, you guys kick a ball around," but it's a lot of life skill the same. The discipline, the timekeeping, your diet. It's the same. You're going to work, right? You got to go on time. You got to be there. It's the same. A lot of people don't see it that way, unfortunately, because maybe the vast amount of money that is involved in our sport that somehow has been tarnished aside that you don't. But there's a lot of same requirement as you mentioned, James. And I think people don't realize the sacrifices that you have to make. And the timekeeper, the discipline, it's the same. It's no different. It's life skill, as we call it. It's the life skill.
Absolutely. And I know we've spoken about the 3 non-negotiables, but if you look back on your career now, what's the most valuable lesson that you've learned?
I say you gotta grasp those moments. You can't turn the clock back, as we say back, right? But then you gotta live those moments and take the opportunity when it presents itself. Because you then look back and think, wow, why did I not? Or why did I not do something? I think, I can honestly sit here and think, I haven't had any regrets in my sports career. I was very lucky, injury prone. I was never injury prone. I train literally every day, and I love every moment. I was a real happy guy. I'm not saying I'm not. I was really happy. Football gave me so much joy, and not the playing side of it, but outside of it as well. Even today when I walk the streets, people go, "Oh yeah, Dwight, Villa, Man United." That tells me, and I'm in my 50s now, and I still get recognized today.
Yeah.
You have to love doing what you do. And I did 100, 200%, James. I love what I did. And I did it with passion, dedication, wanting to be the best. And and there were times it was challenging, but there wasn't a moment I gone, what am I doing here? And I never felt uncomfortable being on a football pitch. I always felt I belonged on a football pitch.
Going back to the very beginning, when I reeled off some of your awards, trophies, stats, at the time that you won the treble, did you soak it all in, or did you want to chase the next one? Because I for one, I'm guilty. If something good happens in my life, I acknowledge it and I try and make the most of it. But then on reflection, I probably don't, because I'm always looking at what's next. Did you?
Well, if I'm going to be honest about it, I always wanted to be successful. Consistency takes a different level. And this is where I wasn't struggling, but I understand it more. Now, if I understood what I understand what consistent was, I'll be even better than what I was ready at.
Yeah.
And that's something I would like to teach the younger generation. Because then I've never taken it for granted, but winning the treble, winning 3 Premier League in a row, it's unheard of, right? And you get into I won't say no complacent, but a comfort zone.
Yeah.
But if I understood that a little bit more now than the age I'm at, I will be even better.
And
because
I think that's human, isn't it? That's
right.
human.
So that's what I'm getting at. Had I known what I know now and the age I'm at now, I would have won maybe an extra 3 or 4 more Premier League, because I understand it now.
Yeah.
And it's not that I did take my eye off the ball. I did maybe in some stages. But then you gotta have to grasp it, because it's not there forever. You think it is. We live in those moments, but it's never there forever. And
No,
that's
it's
why
not.
I can look back and reflect and think, maybe I should have had that even a little bit more killer instinct. But having said that, James, I can't really complain.
Yeah, as I say, that's life. We all have that.
Yeah, I can't really complain.
You just touched upon something. I'm fearful of making a mistake, right? So whether that's personally or professionally. But do you think mistakes are positive, negative? What's your view? Because you've been there as a player and as a manager now. So have we got to make mistakes to grow? Do we not make mistakes? What do you think?
Well, what I could say that we're not perfect, and there is no such thing as perfect, but you could be better. whatever you are and whatever I am now is to be better at what I'm doing. And so that's what I want to be. Better at my management job now, improving players and building them up. Because no one is perfect. You may have a perfect day, but you never perfect throughout your life. And mistakes are part of growing up, right? How else you will grow as an individual or even as a sports person? You make mistakes to recognize, but the beauty of mistakes not make you grow as an individual. But once you recognize those mistakes, and I say build on top of your mistakes, not improve, and that's the key. But I wouldn't say
Interesting.
perfect because no one is perfect.
No, certainly not. No, definitely not me. Look, again, look back at your CV. You have worked with some world-class managers. You are obviously now a manager, leading a team. So what's your secret sauce that you have to try and make the best team, be the best leader that you can be?
Well, I think the leadership is important because people now you are leading everyone, and you people are looking up to you to lead. And the the difference in playing, which you can influence the game, and not playing, which you're a manager, which you can only implement during the game. You can implement your ideas, your philosophy. You pick a team that is going to get you a result, but you can't affect the game from a physical standpoint. So as a manager now, you have to lead these guys in a different form, right? And whether by your philosophy, by your ideas, by your messaging, all these things are factoring to players buying into you. You somehow have to uplift these players to making them feel better about themselves, that they're so much better than what you think they are, and having them go out performing not just for you but for the fans and going that extra mile. And so that's the challenge of being a manager. What I love about it is that players now can relate. They say, "Oh, good players doesn't become good manager." I think that's a myth. I think the days of that happening, because the good players never did the course of the qualification of being a manager, or going into leadership meetings, and understanding that it's not just about them, but leading a group of guys that got to perform, and your backroom staff, the people who are doing the hard graft behind the scene that people doesn't really see. Um, and so I get that, and picking a team around you that also give you that supporting, because it's not just about me, right? It's about everyone else. So you get that team behind you that help you to grow as a manager. It's very important. And so uh, having done the course and now being a manager, both as a club manager and international, I get the sense of it. The thing is, there's no magic one in management. And so we interview, and I played under the greatest manager. What would you say about Sir Alex Ferguson? His leadership quality, his man management. What separate him from being so great to anybody else? Pep Guardiola, who I know personally and spoke to. Jose Mourinho, these kind of guys. When you talk to all of them, they all have their own method. So when we do the course doesn't have this is the way.
Yeah.
You just have to find a way of getting the best out of these players. So you listen to Pep and you think, how? His philosophy is not like, oh wow, amazing. He just find a way. So Alex Ferguson wasn't brilliant at anything. His man management skills was part of it. So you take those little pieces from everyone, but you have to implement your own ideas. Because I can't be a Sir Alex Ferguson, and I certainly can't be a Pep. But what I can be is a Dwight Yorke, right? And
Absolutely.
that's that's the way it gets you forward. That's the way it has to be. So when you listen to them, and you've been in their environment and talk to them. There's no magic one. You listen, so Alex Ferguson, you would like, how does he do it? There was no magic way. But you take those bits from everybody, I think you will find that you get closer to them as you like.
And a question then, look, you've mentioned some of the best managers in the world. And I know that you speak to a lot more than just the three that you've mentioned. But you've just also said something really interesting. You can be Dwight Yorke. So what is Dwight Yorke's leadership style?
I think it's all about enjoyment as well. You gotta enjoy what we do. I gained my experience from a player aspect as well. I think that helps. You can guide these players along the way. They see you in some ways because, obviously being a player, understanding what it takes to get to that level, but also being a winner because ultimately you got to somehow find a way that you resonate with your players to make sure that they win you football matches. And so the Dwight Yorke way is about really putting your best foot forward every time and wanting to improve. That's what get me to where I'm at, my work ethic, and believe in myself. I think if players do that, then I think you halfway there. Um, Keep challenging yourself to be the best. And I think if you have those ingredients, then there is no reason why you can't be successful.
Yeah.
And I think those are what you call my philosophy, my ideas. You need good leadership qualities. I think that's also very important. Players trust and believe in what you are saying to them. When players are playing, that's the easy part. The ones who are not playing, how you keep them motivated to get better, to challenge, to get into the team. So you have to factor all these things into it. And if I could do that, then I'm quietly confident that I'm going to be, I just don't want to be a good manager, but an exceptional manager. I want to go beyond just being not the Dwight Yorke, the player from the Caribbean who then exceed all of that. I want to do that also in management. If I second guess myself as just wanting to be a manager, then I wouldn't be here. I'm in the management game now to be the very best. And I want to leave that thought with everyone because I'm here to stay and here for a good reason, not just a fly by date or whatever we said back in England.
Well, I think knowing you, Dwight, and from what you've just said in the last 40 minutes since we've been speaking, I have no doubt that you will achieve what you have set out to achieve, given what you have done already and given your outlook. I know that you will, and I think if you look at your record already as Trinidad and Tobago manager, it's obvious that you're making an impact, and long may that continue.
Well, that's it. That's I have to go one step further. I have to get Trinidad and qualify for the World Cup. That's just going to be, um, I won't say the biggest challenge, but I'm really excited by it as well too.
I was going to come on to that actually. So yeah, the World Cup. Hopefully, next time we speak or next time we do a podcast together, that will have been ticked, and you will be on that journey. So let's watch this space.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. That's exciting. We have a 3.5 month of real excitement, an expectation that is finally happening in the islands again of Trinidad and Tobago. There's a real excitement there, and of course, it's going to be probably my biggest achievement outside of football. My playing days. if and when we qualify for the World Cup, that will be the most astonishing thing ever.
And what a goal that is. And I know also how much that will mean to you, but also everyone back home where you are. That I think that would truly be a carnival atmosphere for sure.
Well, we don't need much encouragement to have a carnival atmosphere, but when it's happening, you will know it's happening on the island for sure.
So that would be one of your greatest achievements. Looking backwards, what do you think your greatest achievement has been in everything that you've done so far, and why?
I would say my greatest achievement of all of it is defining the odds. Young boy from the Caribbean, unknown, maybe not too many people, Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, embark on a journey that not too many people have given me a chance. And to not just succeed, but to even bypass that success of winning every competition in football level, apart from the World Cup, which I played.
And
Didn't,
captained, I think I'm right in saying.
but didn't win it, but won every other accolade in the sport. It shows that with the right mindset and the right work ethic, you can achieve your goal. And I'm
Yep.
living proof of it. And so that would be the biggest accolade or success for everyone. Yeah, I know the trophies, the medals, the memories are all there. But defining the odds, and I could tell you, my odds would have been pretty steep, maybe even in 1,000,000 to 1.
Yeah.
And to actually achieve that and define the odds, for me, that's my biggest achievement.
I love that answer, Dwight. I love that because of all of the medals, as you say, all of the medals, all of the things that every little boy, girl would dream of achieving. Your answer is define the odds, and I think that is testament to you as a person, and equally understanding just how much hard work and dedication you had to put into where you are and where you have been. But what a great answer! One of the question I do have for you. Who or has inspired you? So you have we've talked about the greatest managers that you've just mentioned. You've worked with some of the best players in the world. But who inspired you?
I did this for my family because we were not in the best of situation back home, so to speak. And I needed to change that environment. I needed to do something. So looking at my parents, the struggle, 9 kids, living in a 2-bedroom bungalow, I needed to change that. And so my inspiration come from the struggle of my family, but also saying that having a good friend, Brian Lara, uh, alongside me doing what he did, I feel that I needed to not compete, but it was a healthy one.
Yeah.
It wasn't, but it was a healthy one. With his success, gives me a little bit more impetus of needed to score more goals, needed to be a better player. Having such a close friend, best friend, in a little side way, I had that little challenge. And so with his success, really gives me a little bit more.
Yeah.
There was I won't say a personal competition among ourselves, but it was to inspire each other. And so his greatness really rubbed off on me in many. And there's a saying: choose your friends, the people around you really elevate you. And Brian did. And a lot of people didn't. I'm not shy in saying that, but he did. His
I'm a
success.
big believer in that, Dwight. I'm a big believer in having people around you that push you, because otherwise you may not know how good you can be. And I think going back to your answer, I mean, I don't know your family, and certainly not speaking on their behalf, but looking at your journey and the journey that is continuing, they must be so proud of you. So I think you've definitely made that happen. So that's a credit to you. But again, what an answer! That is just a heartfelt response. So thank you for being so honest about that. I'm going to try. As I say, I could speak to you forever. I'm going to try and pull things together. So just a couple of more questions. Bear with me. We've mentioned that the World Cup qualification is really important to you. You're working hard to pull that team together. You've also mentioned that the old school way of doing things when you first made your way over to Villa. What do you see happening in the football world in the next couple of years from a technology point of view? What do you think is going to shape the industry and help make your job easier?
Well, I think there's so much information when it comes to the game now. Um, Obviously, sports science, all these things are things that we didn't really know too much about. We felt by just doing bits, but the database and the sports science are ever changing in our sport, in any sports, as a matter of fact. You get to research opposition far more greater than you like, more attention to details, um, specific way of watching teams play and pattern of play. And so you're getting those things more in abundance. It's not like it's just like it's the information are endless. And so that's where the game has gone. What I hope to see that the technology hasn't really overplayed itself, because the beauty of playing the game is about entertaining. The natural flow and the ability that we have seen, the generation before and the generation after, the Ronaldo and the Messi and Pele and Maradona, that individual brilliant that people paid so much money to go. We don't want to see that going out the game. Rather than it become a more strategic sort of, uh, I don't want to say like the American football where you get everything is planned out and da 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 da, and it gets really like boring and it gets with timeout, and you
Yeah,
want to see people actually expressing themselves playing the game, because that's what the game was about. And so even though the technology and the sports science has come into the game, which people are much more faster, quicker, uh, the diet, all those database comes in. The one thing I hope to continue is the flair and the excitement that, people pay the hard-earned money to come and see. Yes, the database, yes, the sports science, I get all of that. But you want to see people expressing the way and the passion and the individual brilliance of, wow, that was just crazy. Once those doesn't go out the game, then I'd be very happy. I'd be very
I think
happy.
the challenge, isn't it, is bringing the rigid elements in, so the data, the sports science, how you use it, but not losing, as you say, the flair. Because certainly as a fan, look, there is nothing more exciting than getting up off your chair thinking this is going to happen and is a maverick. But it's about trying to gel those all together, isn't it?
And absolutely, and you're right. And that's exactly what you got to do, is marinate all these things together. But the whole idea is to entertain and make sure that the excitement doesn't go away from the game, and not the sports science and the database that takes away the element. And you see a more strategic way of playing, which is fine, part of the game and part concept of the game. But ultimately, you want to go and watch something that excites you, and
Absolutely agree. I've got one last question for you, and then we're going to do some quick fire questions. Um, so, as a player, you've done everything. What then made you want to transition to a manager to go again? What was the driver?
well, first to begin with, again, the commitment and the transition. I think the way how the game has gone, it's feed into my personality, which is to interact with players, um, more man management skills. I always feel like I was a good communicator. Leadership, something that I didn't have at the beginning, but I got better with age and responsibilities. All those little things that factor in. And so the transition from a player to management, not for everyone. We've seen it. Some been successful, some fail heavily. Not going to mention the names, but
No,
they're
me.
no, but there are failures in between that. I feel I just feel I'm different. I've always felt I was different, that I can interact, but also get the best out of the players. And so the transition is commitment. I was sidetracked with doing some television work, doing this, traveling, global ambassador for Man United. When I was a player, there was no sidetrack. I was fully committed. Managers, you have to be committed. I'm committed, understand it, did the course, understand what leadership, having to change your lifestyle, all those things factor in. Once you're committed to that, there's no doubt, and I'm quietly confident, and I'll say it on your podcast, there's no way I'm not going to be a great manager.
And I know
Now,
you will be.
people might think I'm a little bit cocky or confident, but I know my ability. I have self-belief, and I genuinely believe that given the chance, which I've always craved for, on a fair stance, just like I was a player, I feel I can stand up to the best.
I'm sure you will. Right, bring it to a close. Quick fire questions. Listen to your head or heart?
I would say more instinct. I prefer to be more instinct. Yeah, that's something I learned in management. Heart, instinct. You've been there, go with your gut feel. Instinct.
Micromanage or trust your people?
Say that again, first one.
So micromanage, so be all over them, but tell them how to do it, or trust them to do it themselves?
I have to trust.
Best match you have played in?
Man U, Barcelona at the new camp. Yeah, that was crazy. That was crazy. That was a great game.
I'm not going to be mean with the next question. 3 of the best players you've played with?
Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, and Paul McGrath.
Are you performance, so your KPIs, or people-driven?
Performance.
Very last one, and we've touched on this. If you could go back to 21-year-old Dwight Yorke, what key bit of advice would you say to yourself?
Interesting one. I would say just give it all. Just give everything that you have, because it will come to an end.
Dwight, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for taking the time. Loved it. I'm sure everyone will really enjoy listening to this, so thank you.
Cheers, James. Appreciate it.